Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Join the chat group. Chapter 1. Reed Richards. The leader of the Fantastic Four in the superhero team. Known as Mr. Fantastic. Since being exposed to cosmic rays, he can change his body into any shape as he wishes. One of the smartest people on Earth. Susan Stone. One of the Fantastic Four with Reed. Known as the Invisible Woman. Reed is in a relationship with her. Also exposed to cosmic rays, he gained the ability to be invisible and create a protective force field. The relationship between Reed and Susan is well known. This is also gossip that many people pay attention to. However, what everyone does not know is that this couple has had big troubles in a short period of time. That is, Susan is pregnant. Moreover, her belly is growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 5 days, she has completed the 5-month journey. This made Reed and Susan very upset. They just started preparing for the wedding some time ago, but they did not expect that things would come so suddenly. Pregnancy is secondary. Reed was mainly afraid that the cosmic radiation that irradiated them would cause Susan to have a difficult birth, and both mother and child would die. Especially when 5 days of pregnancy is equivalent to 5 months. However, no matter how Reed studied, everything was normal, including the baby in the belly. The only strange thing was that it grew a little faster. In this way, time came to the 10th day. Susan entered the delivery room. Reed, a super genius, quickly learned the knowledge of childbirth in these few days and delivered Susan personally. He clenched his hands and had never been so nervous in his life. The birthing process was very smooth. With a quack, a pink and extremely cute baby appeared. The little baby did not cry, but put his 2 little hands on his chest and looked at Reed with big eyes. At the moment he saw the child, Reed's heart melted, and everything was forgotten. This is my son. At this time, Susan's voice came. Reed, show me the child. Okay. In this way, Reed and Susan snuggled together, looking at the child, with smiles on their faces. Although the child came very suddenly. But their love has long reached the stage of marriage. There would be no other thoughts. So cute, looks like me, but I don't know why he doesn't cry. What should the child be called in the future? Susan smiled and gently teased the child. Or call him Fu. Reed was about to speak. But he was interrupted by a childish voice. Nolan. Nolan Richards. Reed and Susan looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Reed and Susan both knew. Their child was born extraordinary. But they didn't expect that he was so extraordinary. He could speak as soon as he was born. He also named himself. What's more extraordinary is, the child grew up to 2 years old at a visible speed the next day. 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. Although he was only 8 days old, Nolan was already like an 8-year-old, and even discussed sleeping in separate rooms with them. Noran's uncle, Jonathan Stone, the Human Torch, who is also a member of the Fantastic Four, and Ben Grimm, the Stone Man, both complained that they hadn't held the child yet, and he had grown up in the blink of an eye, and they didn't feel like elders at all. Night. The night was bright and the stars were sparse. Reed and Susan lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling silently. It wasn't just Jonathan and Ben who didn't feel like elders. They didn't feel like parents either. Reed, I'm a little worried about the child. The child is too unusual. As a woman, Susan is more emotional. Definitely, as a mother, she is worried that Noran will feel that he is different and thus out of touch with society. Susan, don't worry about that. As a man, Reed is more open-minded. He hugged Susan and said, children are naturally mature and have their own ideas. Letting him play with other children won't be able to play together, right? We parents are supposed to. They are discussing things as parents. But they had no idea that what they saw was just the tip of the iceberg of the child. Noran hid in the quilt. The small bed trembled slightly. From time to time, joyful laughter came. Success, finally success. Noran looked at what he held in his hands, his face was slightly illuminated, and his face was full of excitement and joy. Take a closer look. What Noran held in his hands was a real universe. There were galaxies, fixed stars, planets. There were even level universe gods such as Planet Devourer, Eternity, Infinity, etc. It was a complete super large universe. Super perverted ability. The moment Norin died in a car accident and was reborn. He knew what his identity was in this life. The son of Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, one of Marvel's strongest Earthlings, Franklin Richards. Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's abilities are average. But when they are put together, there is a subtle chemical reaction, which can produce a super pervert. Alter reality, psychic powers, manipulation of matter and energy, energy projection, mind control, telepathy, astral projection, predicting the future, traveling through time and space, immortality, creating pocket universes. Easily crushes Phoenix Force Rachel. When he was young, he was called by the Celestials as being on the same level as them. While repairing the Marvel multi-universe with Molecule Man, he was constantly creating universes. You know, his abilities become stronger over time. After he became an adult, he was judged by the Celestials to be above the Omega level. He is called the creator of the universe and the danger of the galaxy. His achievements include easily creating multiple multi-universes. He challenged 3 Celestials and killed one. He used energy to directly resurrect the planet Devourer who was killed by the Celestials. Later, he created a universe with his own hands and declared that he would accompany Galactus until the end of all things and witness the birth of a new universe together. In fact, this is true. He lived with Galactus until the end of time before the heat death of the universe. He was praised by Galactus as the strongest mutant in history. Well, he is also the strongest elementary school student in Marvel. Even the identity of mutant. In fact, it was only because Young Fu himself was afraid that he could not integrate into the mutant group that he changed his identity. Nolan is a reborn person. He knows that Franklin is himself. He is Franklin. But he is still not used to this name. So at the beginning, he named himself Nolan. Because he was called Lin Nuo in his previous life. Nolan did not reveal his ability in front of his parents in this life. He just grew up a little faster than ordinary people. Definitely. This growth speed of appearance is different from the speed of internal strengthening. After all, Nolan just grew fast in this life, and his age is actually only 10 days. However, even so, Nolan has already built his own pocket universe in secret. Ding. The chat group of all worlds invites you to join, do you agree? Just when Nolan was excited, a mechanical sound rang in his ears. He lifted the quilt and looked left and right. It was not something made by his parents. Nolan smiled again. He clasped his hands together, annihilated the universe casually, and rubbed his hands with interest. Agree. Ding. Marvel's strongest elementary school student, join the chat group. Ding. Universe Overlord, join the chat group. Blood Demon, hey, there's a newcomer. Welcome. Pot Cover Leader, welcome. Yuki Asuna, welcome, warm welcome. Gambling Maniac, welcome newcomers to our big family. Universe Overlord, Universe Overlord, what is this? Universe Overlord, dare someone to invade my inner world. One Punch Superman world. The one-eyed monster frowned, not knowing where to start. He thought that as the Universe Overlord, he was also knowledgeable, but he had never seen such a thing. But Norin was still in the Marvel world. There was no surprise in his heart, but he was very happy. The 10,000 Worlds chat group was exactly as he thought. However, elementary school student. What the hell, he is only 10 days old, not old enough to go to elementary school. Blood Demon, Universe Overlord. Are you bragging? Gambling Maniac. Let's not worry about whether it's bragging or not for now, let's answer the newbie's question. The 10,000 Worlds chat group is actually very easy to understand. It's a chat group from the 10,000 Worlds. Everyone comes from different worlds, and the 10,000 Worlds chat group brings everyone together, just like a chat room. Ding. Group member, Gambling Maniac, solves the newbie's doubts, points plus 10. Gambling Maniac. Huh. There are points for this too. Not bad. Yuki Asuna. 10 points, if it were me, I would definitely become much smarter. Blood Demon. Ah. Why didn't anyone tell me that there are also some rewards for this kind of thing? 10 points, equivalent to 2 or 3 days of check-in. Looking at the people in the 10,000 Worlds chat group. Boros's tightly locked brows suddenly loosened. Universe Overlord. I see, people from all over the world gather together, so there must be someone as strong as me, right? Universe Overlord. Is there anyone who can fight me? Blood Demon. Are you still a martial arts fanatic? You come here just to fight. Blood Demon. I am the best fighter in this group, I can fight you. Universe Overlord. Seriously. Blood Demon. Seriously. Ding. Virtual dual field is open. The virtual dual field appears to adjust the conflicts in the group and can be opened at any time. The damage inflicted in the dual field will not appear in reality. The points required to open are 100 points, and you can choose to pay for 2 people or 1 person. When paying for 2 people, the amount of personal responsibility is decided by both parties. Each time a duel is opened, both parties can choose whether to let people watch the battle. If one party disagrees, the spectator function will be cancelled. The spectators in the group and the participants cannot hear, see, smell or feel. Each group member will have 1 free challenge opportunity at the beginning. Universe Overlord. You're welcome. Group member, Universe Overlord, invites Blood Demon to a virtual battle. Both parties have agreed, the virtual battlefield is open. Group members can enter the virtual audience seats at any time to watch the battle. Everyone chose to enter the virtual audience seats. I felt a flash in front of my eyes, and I appeared in a different space. This is a flat planet, with unlimited file size, and various environments such as land, ocean, desert, etc. It is perfect for fighting. In the wide duel arena. On the left stood a one-eyed monster wearing armor and a quill head. On the right stood a girl with 2 small red horns on her head, wearing a normal black uniform and a white shirt. Norin also chose to enter the spectator seat. In this way, he could see what the other group members looked like. In addition to the 2 in the duel arena, he also saw a boy with a pot-cut haircut and dead fish eyes. A girl wearing a casual skirt. A girl in a red and white school uniform. The boy looked ordinary, while the 2 girls had beautiful faces, each with its own merits. Well, just as I thought, they are them. Universe Overlord. Boros in the One Punch Man world. Blood Demon. Pava in the Chainsaw Man world. Yuki Asuna. Asuna in the Sao world, and Yuki Asuna, the heroine. Gambling Maniac. Yumeko Jabami in the Kakagurui world. Pot Cut Leader. A passerby in Psychic 100, Shigeo Kageyama. When Norin was observing them, they were also observing Norin. Yuki Asuna looked at Norin with curiosity and asked, "Little brother, are you the newcomer who joined the group with that one-eyed weirdo?" Yes. Nolan nodded in a gentlemanly manner and said, "Hello, my name is Norin Richards." So polite. Jabami Yumeko walked up to Norin and smiled gently, "Little brother Norin, how old are you?" 10 days. Nolan replied. "Oh, 10 years old." Yuki Asuna nodded and said, "He is really a child." "Ah, not 10 years old." Nolan shook his head seriously and stretched out his 2 palms and said, "It's 10 days. 10. What? 10 days. Yuki Asuna looked at Nolan with a serious face and laughed. 10 days. Little brother, don't joke, how can you grow up like this in 10 days? Jabami Yumeko still had a smile on her face. Kageyama Shigeo had a blank expression. Obviously. They didn't believe Nolan's statement. Nolan shrugged. "I just grew up a little faster." Okay. Yuki Asuna nodded reluctantly and said, "Let's watch the duel. I don't know who will win. This is a rare duel." Obviously, she still didn't believe it. Nolan said indifferently. Next. The perspective turned to the virtual duel arena. At the moment, the virtual duel arena has been counted down for 10 seconds. The combatants on both sides are ready. Pava smiled evilly, and a crack appeared on his right wrist. Blood gushed out. It quickly formed a sickle. This is the power of the blood demon. It can manipulate blood to become a weapon and use it for itself. Yuki Asuna and Jabami Yumeko looked a little excited. Both of them were in the ordinary world. The only thing they had seen was the video of killing enemies uploaded by Kageyama Shigeo. Seeing Pava's magical ability, it was natural to be excited. Pava, come on. Pava held the sickle, jumped out of the ground, stepped forward, and used the sickle to hit Boros with a series of moves. But Boros did not move at all, just frowned. Clang! 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 The sickle chopped on the armor, sparks flew. Pava swung the sickle very fast. But it could not cause any damage to Boros. Weak, too weak. Boros had no expression on his face. He had already discovered from the beginning that the girl in front of him was very weak. He just threw a punch casually. Bang! Pava's abdomen was pierced and the whole person fell in two. The winner was decided. Blood demon, how can this guy be so strong? I don't accept it. Gambling maniac, you should accept it, Pava. As a new generation Trask, you have to accept the facts whether you win or lose. Blood demon. Tisk. It's really hateful. Universe overlord. Weak, really too weak. Is this the strongest existence in the group? Universe overlord. If so, then I will be disappointed with this 10,000 worlds chat group. Blood demon. Yuki Asuna. So arrogant, although you are very strong, there are people who are better than you, and you will be defeated if you do this. Universe overlord. I'm waiting for you to make me lose. Yuki Asuna. Blood demon. Someone must teach you, although you don't want to admit it, but someone is stronger than the uncle. Quote. That's the blood demon. As long as you play with this one-eyed monster, this uncle will teach you how to please girls. Quote. The leader. Okay. Group member, the Lord of the Pot, invites the Universe Outlord to conduct virtual battle. Both sides have agreed. The virtual battlefield is opened. Group members can enter the virtual audience at any time. Everyone entered the virtual audience again. Nolan looked at the gentle, ladylike Jabami Yumeko, and suddenly smiled. She pulled her JK skirt and said, Sister Yumeko, how about we make a bet? Actually, Jabami Yumeko wanted to refuse. But who asked Nolan to make a bet? No one can refuse a bet. A gleam of light flashed in Jabami Yumeko's eyes, and she smiled and said, What do you want to bet on, little brother Nolan? Who will win? Nolan smiled and said, The loser will be the servant of the other party. What do I need a 10-year-old servant for? Although she complained, Jabami Yumeko still smiled and said, I promise you, but I have to choose who will win first. Nolan knew that she couldn't refuse a bet. Okay. He nodded indifferently. No matter who Jabami Yumeko chooses to win, Nolan has a way to make himself win. Well, I choose the pothead to win. Jabami Yumeko likes to gamble. Especially the kind of bet that relies entirely on chance. She doesn't like to lose or win. She just loves the feeling of possibly losing or winning. Definitely, she still chose the person she thinks is most likely to win. After all, Kageyama Shigeo once uploaded a video of himself showing his divine power. That was divine power she had never seen before. Then I have no choice but to choose the Universe Overlord. Nolan smiled and said, Let's start the bet. You are not allowed to regret it. Yeah, it's a deal. Listen to everything the two said. Pava said that she really wanted to participate, but there was only one person to compete with, and she couldn't add another one. It was Yuki Asuna, the girl who grew up in a big family, who wanted to persuade her not to gamble. But everyone is not in the same world, and she also knows that she can't use the rules of her world to restrict others. In the end, it can only be left unresolved. At the moment, the countdown is over. The duel begins again. Boom. Because of Pava's promise, Kageyama Shigeo showed 100% of his strength from the beginning. His eyes were sharp, and terrifying super ability fluctuations broke out around him. The ground quickly cracked, hurricanes flew, and the pot lid was lifted. Boros watched this scene. His expressionless face finally showed a hint of interest. It's a bit interesting. He crouched slightly, prepared to rush forward. And in the next second, Kageyama Shigeo's psychokinesis swept over in an instant. The ground was lifted up inch by inch. A moment later, Boros was blown thousands of meters away and hit a mountain hard. Boom. The whole mountain shook, and the earth and rocks collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the air. Jabami Yumeko and others were the first to come into contact with this kind of battle except for the video. They seemed very excited. Especially Jabami Yumeko, a woman who loves to pursue excitement the most. A sick smile appeared on her face. Yuki Asuna swallowed hard. Passerby, too strong. Come on. Passerby. Pava shouted nonchalantly, we must beat this stinky alien to death. I'll keep my word. I'll definitely teach you how to please girls. Nolan glanced at Pava. Then he curled his lips. He didn't even think before he lied. He knew Pava. A demon who had lived for an unknown period of time before coming back to life. He didn't even understand many modern rules and how people get along with each other. How could he know how to please girls? Only a simple child-like passerby would believe it. Looking at the excited Kageyama Shigeo, Nolan shook his head. He was going to be disappointed. Boros naturally couldn't be affected by Kageyama Shigeo's attack. When the smoke and dust cleared, he fell from the pit. All the armor on his body shattered. It fell to the ground with a crackling sound, revealing his muscular body. Ha 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 ha. He was stunned for a moment. Then he burst into a ferocious and arrogant smile. The saw teeth like a chainsaw glowed white under the sunlight. You are qualified to let me use some strength. Energy, release. Boros clenched his fists and hunched his body slightly. An amazing energy suddenly burst out. Boom. A huge pit suddenly exploded on the ground. The aftermath of the energy instantly blew away all the surrounding trees. Kageyama Shigeo couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his eyes. Boros laughed wildly. The skin bulged rapidly, forming a stratum corneum similar to an exoskeleton on the surface. The blue energy light spread from the chest to the whole body, extremely dazzling. This is Boros's fighting form. Energy burst. Boros showed a ferocious smile, took a few steps and started running. Every step he took on the ground made a big pit on the ground. Then, he stomped on the ground fiercely. Boom. The whole person shot towards Shigeo Kageyama at a speed faster than a missile. The fist wind arrived before the fist arrived. His pot-lid hair was lifted up, and his cheeks were stung. So strong. This was the strongest Shigeo Kageyama had ever felt. In his world, no one could give him this feeling. Sense of crisis max. Feeling the crisis of death. Shigeo Kageyama forced himself and instantly burst out 100% of his super ability. With all his strength, he raised a defensive force field in front of him. Bang! Boros's fist hit the defensive force field. In an instant. Ah! Shigeo Kageyama gritted his teeth and roared involuntarily from his throat. He raised his hands to block the front, and psychokinesis had already condensed to the extreme. Boros smiled evilly. Shigeo Kageyama seemed to be pushed back by Boros's defense field, dragging thousands of meters, plowing a long gully on the ground before he stopped. Boom! The energy aftermath of the two people's fight suddenly dispersed. Bang! The hill behind disappeared directly from the bottom of the mountain, forming a crescent-shaped arc-shaped gap. Pava took a breath. Oh my god, so powerful. Is this universe overlord so awesome? This shocked them. It was outrageous. Yumeko Jabami was even more excited, holding her hands tightly in front of her chest, and looking at the scene in front of her excitedly. Will the passerby win? Or will the universe overlord win? The most exciting moment of gambling is coming. She thought that this duel would be easily decided. But now it seems. Not necessarily. This undoubtedly makes this gambling game more unpredictable. Jabami Yumeko is a senior and addicted gambler. This will not make her panic. It will only make her more excited. For her, gambling is all about the excitement of having everything under control but with the possibility of something unexpected happening at any time. Norin looked at the excited Jabami Yumeko. He shrugged silently. And shook his head. The possibility of a passerby winning against Boros is very small. Almost zero. Psycho 100 and One Punch Man are both works by the same author. The author once determined that when Kageyama Shigeo's strength is 100%, it is roughly equivalent to Tornado in One Punch Man. Tornado against Boros. Tornado, pointing at herself, I fight Boros. How can Tornado deal with Boros? Even if Tornado is at full strength. I'm afraid it can't be compared with Boros's energy release state. Although Kageyama Shigeo is above 100%, there is still a percent state. But Norin didn't think he could beat Boros. The next situation. Just as Norin thought. Boros in the energy release state almost suppressed Kageyama Shigeo. Bang! 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 With one punch and one kick. Kageyama Shigeo had almost no power to fight back. Boros smiled grimly, and an energy cannon burst out from his chest, blasting straight at him. Kageyama Shigeo quickly raised his hand to block. Boom! The energy wave blasted from both sides to the back, instantly destroying everything behind. Kageyama Shigeo held on for a while. The whole person was submerged by the light of the energy wave. Is he dead? Boros looked ahead. There was no fluctuation in his heart. Even a little regretful. So that's all. With the fall of the last blow, Kageyama Shigeo's body almost collapsed. But he didn't fall. On the contrary, his fists were clenched tightly. Deep in his heart, a powerful force was awakening. That was his true power that had been hidden under his ordinary appearance. Suddenly, Boros felt an indescribable energy bursting out from the smoke. Like a volcanic eruption, psychokinesis rushed into the sky. This force was so strong that it dispersed the smoke and dust, so that everything within a radius of thousands of kilometers began to tremble constantly. Dense cracks began to appear on the ground, and these cracks quickly vibrated and spread to every corner like a spider web. The mountains collapsed in the trembling, and the waves rolled under the impact of the power, forming waves of tsunamis. The clouds in the sky were also torn apart by this power, revealing the obscured sunset, and the blood-red light reflected on the battlefield, adding a bit of doomsday atmosphere. Kageyama Shigeo stood in the center of it all. His figure looked particularly tall in the light of power. Everyone in the group, except for Norin, once again shocked by the power displayed by Kageyama Shigeo. Especially Yuki Asuna. Is this something a human can do? I will defeat you. Then ask Sister Pava to teach me how to please girls. Poor kid. At this time, he is still thinking about Pava's promise. And looking at Shigeo Kageyama, whose psychokinesis has reached the level of %. Boros was stunned for a moment. Then in the next moment, he burst into an even more ferocious laugh. Interesting. Interesting. Things are even more interesting. Boros rushed to Shigeo Kageyama in a few steps, and the whole person disappeared on the spot. At that moment, the group friends watching in the spectator seats. It was as if they saw Boros' countless duplications, attacking Shigeo Kageyama from all directions at the same time. However, this was just an illusion caused by his speed being too fast. Compared to before, Shigeo Kageyama's response method was undoubtedly easier. Every attack could be blocked by the defensive force field. At the same time, he even seized the opportunity and blasted Boros away with one blow. Boros quickly adjusted his posture in the air, landed steadily, and stopped after dragging on the ground for several kilometers. Puff! He spit out a mouthful of blood. But there was a crazy smile on his face. Ha 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 ha, you are one of the few people who can force me to use my full strength. I recognize you. But, I hope you can hold on and let me enjoy it to the end. Boom. Suddenly, Boros' body began to emit a ray of light. Soon, these lights began to gather and become stronger and stronger. Under his skin, it seemed that countless energies were surging. Every inch of muscle seemed to be more tenacious and powerful under the reflection of this light. Buzz. Buzz. Boom. It seemed that he felt the power of this force. The surrounding stones floated into the air and trembled constantly. As time went on, the light on Boros became brighter and brighter, and finally reached a critical point. In an instant, popular explosion. His whole body was covered with white light. It was a pure and strong light that seemed to illuminate the whole world. Incredibly strong energy burst out from Boros' body and soared into the sky. This energy was so huge. It shook the entire surface. The ground began to tremble, cracks spread rapidly like a spider web, mountains collapsed in the trembling, and rivers began to evaporate under the strong energy. Transform the energy in the body into propulsion, thereby obtaining explosive speed and power beyond the limits of biological organisms. The destructive power is greatly increased. Even if the body is shattered, it can be instantly restored. It is one of Boros's two trump cards. However, there are naturally some disadvantages. That is the consumption of life. It seems to be in space all the time. Boros grinned. The energy condensed in his body has been stretched. Kageyama Shigeo didn't even react. Boros appeared in front of him in an instant. The huge fist hit his head. Bang! Boom! Thousands of miles were flattened, and Kageyama Shigeo died. In the chat group of all worlds. The pot-covered leader. Blood demon. Gambling maniac. Yuki Asuna. Everyone in the group seemed very dumb. They didn't react to what happened at all. Just, it's over. Blood demon. Who won? It's actually very obvious. But Pava still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. The leader of the pot-covered head. I lost, and lost miserably. Kageyama Shigeo actually doesn't care if his strength is surpassed by others or anything like that. He himself doesn't care about strength at all. It's just a pity for the promise made by Pava. He sighed. Alas, I can't get the trick to please girls. It's really hateful. Gambling maniac. It seems that I lost. Yumeko Jabami was a little confused. It seems that I lost myself. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. At Gambling Maniac, I'm willing to admit defeat, Yumeko. Gambling Maniac. Definitely, where is your home? I'll go there now. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Don't worry, you just need to know that you have lost yourself to me. Nolan is very relieved about Yumeko Jabami. The most annoying thing about gambling is that you are willing to gamble but don't admit defeat. Yumeko Jabami is such a person who is so obsessed with and admires gambling. It's naturally impossible for her to not admit defeat. The overlord of the universe. Not bad, at pot-head leader. You are one of the few people who can catch my eye, the rest are trash. Pothead leader. Is that so? Should I feel honored? The overlord of the universe. In theory, yes. Blood demon. Ouch. So annoying. Is there no one who can deal with this overlord of the universe? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I think so. Blood demon. Who? Tell me. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. EMMM. I have a lot of people who can deal with him. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Not all of them, but there are a lot of them. Blood demon. Meow. Are you serious? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Definitely serious. The overlord of the universe. The overlord of the universe. Oh. Then I'm very curious, what kind of world is it that can have a lot of people who can defeat me? Are you? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I think so. Nolan is still very humble. If you ignore what he just created. Then he casually destroyed the universe. Universe overlord. You count as one. Then I'm more interested, I want to see it. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. If you want to see it, I'll let you see it, wouldn't that make me look very embarrassed? Universe overlord. Hey, empty words are not enough. Yuki Asuna. At Marvel's strongest elementary school student, Nolan. Don't get too close to him, he's just a martial arts madman. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. It's okay, he can't do anything to me. Universe overlord. You make me a little angry. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Angry. Then you can't do anything to me. Universe overlord. Boros's single eye sank. Nolan's attitude was something he had never felt before. This made him a little angry. Blood demon. PFF'd, ha 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 ha, although I don't know what the truth is, but well done, this guy is too arrogant, so he has to be punished. Blood demon. It would be great if we could really teach him a lesson. Gambling maniac. At Marvel's strongest elementary school student, Nolan, forget it, don't listen to them, you as a child should not get involved in such things. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Alas, why don't you believe me? Forget it, let's try it. Group member, Marvel's strongest elementary school student, invites, Universe Overlord, to a virtual battle. Both parties have agreed, the virtual battlefield is open. Group members can enter the virtual audience seats at any time to watch the game. It is still the same place. Nolan and Boros are facing each other from a distance. What was broken just now was only the armor of Boros in the virtual battlefield. So, when he appears again, the suppression armor on his body is also restored to its original state. Seeing the image of a child like Nolan, Boros frowned slightly. Serious. Boros said lightly, I'll give you one last chance, admit defeat and leave here. Naturally, he would not have any sympathy just because the other party is a child. It is mainly because he entered the Wanji chat group. And he is not a fool. In such a virtual arena and the effective points. I have already understood the power of the Wanji chat group. Group members in this group. He needs to give some face anyway. The overlord of the universe cannot be achieved by recklessness alone. Stop talking nonsense. Just start. Nolan yawned. He was only 10 days old. He was still very sleepy. To be honest, although his ability was very strong. But his body was actually quite weak. It was just that there was a passive defense field on his body all the time, so even if he was asleep, the attacks of level universe were just like tickling him. HMPH. Boros saw that Nolan was so ungrateful. So he was ready to teach him a lesson. He burst into a meteor right away. Everyone in the spectator seats was shocked. Is this Boros so ruthless when he attacks? What if he leaves a psychological shadow on someone? Yuki Asuna was very nervous. As the only normal person in this group, she could care about the mental health of ordinary children. What's the big deal? Pava curled her lips and said indifferently, if you can't stand this, then just quit the group. This is the Wanji chat group, not the baby chat group. Human children are the most annoying. How can you say that, Pava? Yuki Asuna said dissatisfiedly. As long as you join the chat group, you are all members of our group. You can't think like that, do you know? Okay, I know. Yumeko Jabami didn't say anything from beginning to end. She actually wanted Nolan to have some small problems that would not affect the overall situation and quit the group on her own. After all, it's good that she is willing to accept defeat. But she didn't say that she couldn't avoid punishment in other ways. She did a lot of things to avoid punishment. But no matter what, Yumeko Jabami is now a servant of Nolan. Saying such depressing words. It's not something a servant can do. And there is Shigeo Kageyama. Staring with those dead fish eyes from beginning to end. He doesn't care about the battle at all. If he didn't want to play with everyone, he wouldn't watch any battles. How boring. I need to teach you a lesson. Let me show you what it means to respect the strong. Boros shot towards Norin at a speed beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. His body drew an S-shaped trajectory in the air, dragging a long arc of pink energy. It was an extreme speed, a speed that made the speed of sound seem like a turtle crawling. Boros's speed was too fast. So that wherever he passed, the high temperature generated by the friction of the air instantly evaporated everything around him. The forest turned to ashes the moment he passed. The mountains collapsed under his trajectory. Even the hard crust of the earth became fragile in front of his speed. The entire terrain changed dramatically under his impact. However, it was a punch contained in such a terrifying speed. But Norin only raised a finger. A faint square fluorescent barrier appeared in front of him. Bang! All the kinetic energy and energy seemed to be like a drop in the ocean in front of this barrier, and there was not even any aftershocks. It was like a plain punch that was blocked instantly. Boros widened his eyes and looked at the barrier in front of him in disbelief. If the entire terrain behind him had not been turned into charcoal and ashes, he would have doubted whether he really threw an ordinary punch. Not only Boros was shocked. Everyone in the group watching the fight was about to drop their jaws. Is this true? Pava's jaw was dislocated, and she forced it back, saying in shock, this punch is more powerful than the punch that killed the pot-covered head just now. Kageyama Shigeo glanced at Pava. Don't you? This kid. Yuki Asuna muttered to herself. Jabami Yumeko's eyes burst into an indescribable light. Norin is so strong. Then losing to him seems not a loss. I've already told you that there are a lot of people who can kill you. Why don't you believe me? Nolan sighed. His eyes gradually became calm. His tone was like that of a god. His hand with fingers extended gradually spread, turned, and clenched into a fist. Boros was shocked to find that he could not move again. The energy barrier was like a big net, absorbing on him, controlling him, and being controlled by Nolan into a ball. Since you don't believe it, then let's try it. Nolan stretched out his hand. He manipulated the ball to get close to his face, so that Boros could look at him. His big face was pressed against the energy barrier, just like it was pressed against glass, which was a little funny. The surface of the ball formed by the energy barrier was as smooth as a mirror, reflecting the light of the stars. Boros' body was ruthlessly twisted, and every part of his body was squeezed unprecedentedly. His muscles were tense, and his bones creaked under the pressure. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free. Pava, Yuki Asuna, Jabami Yumeko, and Kageyama Shigeo were all shocked by this scene. It's outrageous. The dignified overlord of the universe was so easily controlled by a child. He was sweating profusely. Their persuasion just now seemed to be fake. Maybe in the eyes of others. He was just a fool. It was a bit like persuading the world's richest man not to spend 1 million to buy a house. Let me go. Boros was speechless. But Norin had the ability of telepathy. Mind reading was just the simplest part. He said silently, what will happen if I let you go? You can actually hear me talking. Boros was shocked, but quickly reacted, Let me go and fight me head on, not with this trick. It's like I tricked you. Norin complained and removed the energy barrier casually. Come on, let me see. Go to hell. Boros landed instantly, and then kicked his feet and rushed into the sky. He clenched his fists and began to gather energy in his mouth. Bang! As the energy gathered, the wind and clouds began to surge within tens of thousands of miles. Star. The clouds in the sky were torn apart by this force, revealing the obscured stars. Roar. The earth was shaking. Roar. The mountains were shaking, and the rivers were diverted under the impact of the force. Cannon. Finally, the energy in front of Boros' mouth gathered to the peak. He opened his mouth and a dazzling beam of light gushed out of his mouth. It was an energy cannon, which blasted towards Nolan with an unstoppable momentum. The light of the collapsed star roaring cannon illuminated the entire night sky. Its power was so terrible that once it landed, it would inevitably shatter everything within tens of thousands of miles. The people watching the battle had no doubt that if this energy cannon landed on the Earth, it would be enough to directly blow up the entire Earth. This is another of Boros' two trump cards. The ultimate skill that burst out by condensing all the energy in the body. What a pity. He was facing Nolan. Nolan raised his hand, and the energy of the collapsed star roaring cannon was instantly stopped in midair. Immediately afterwards, his palm seemed to burst out with suction. All the energy of the collapsed star roaring cannon was absorbed. In the end, an energy ball was harvested. It was a very ordinary operation. However, it shocked Boros, who was falling in the air, once again. Your energy, I'll give it back to you. Nolan casually extended his hand, and the energy ball flew lightly towards Boros. This was just an illusion. In fact, the speed surpassed everything. The energy ball sank into Boros' body. In an instant, Boros seemed to have turned into a fragile porcelain. Dense cracks appeared on his body. Dazzling light appeared in the cracks. He opened his eyes wide and opened his mouth, all emitting light that was enough to cover the sky and the sun. In the next moment, Boros' body could no longer bear it. Boom. In the air, it exploded. The battle is over. The atmosphere in the Wanji chat group was very quiet. No one spoke. All were shocked. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. What's wrong? Why don't you talk? Blood demon. Hiss. You are too strong. Wow. You can easily defeat the master of the universe. Yuki Asuna. I think I worried for nothing, boo. Gambling maniac. You are so strong at the age of 10, Nolan, you definitely have much more energy in your body than you have now. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Didn't I say that there are a lot of people who can kill him? It's just that you don't believe it. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Also, I'm not that strong, very weak. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. My body is very weak. If Boros hits me with one punch, I will really die. My parents say I am powerless. Gambling maniac. Yuki Asuna. Blood demon. Blood demon. Are your parents serious? You. Powerless. Pothead leader. You must be kidding. It doesn't look like he is powerless. Powerless. Nolan. He is powerless. Then what are they? The kind of people who get killed by ants when they go out. Yuki Asuna suddenly thought of a kind of parents. That is, no matter what the child is like, they will use derogatory methods to urge the other party to grow up and become stronger. Could it be? Nolan's parents are also like this. I can't help it. Yuki Asuna felt a little sorry for Nolan. He is so strong. But he still has to be suppressed by his parents. What a poor child. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Sometimes people won't believe you when you tell the truth. Spreading hands. Nolan didn't know that in Yuki Asuna's eyes, his parents had become repressive parents. If he knew, he would definitely laugh out loud. My repressive Mr. Fantastic, invisible woman. Too good at imagination. But now, he just shrugged. Forget it if you don't believe it. He was telling the truth. His body was indeed very weak. It's just that he can use his super ability to enhance his body. That's all. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Also, I said, I'm not 10 years old, I'm 10 days. 10 days. Yuki Asuna. Wait, these 10 days, can't they be true too? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Definitely true. What's the benefit of me lying to you? These 10 days. The expressions of several people in the Wanji chat group became even more confused about what to say. Nolan really had no point in lying to them. They don't need to lie to them to get any benefits. In other words, it's probably true. He grew up so big in 10 days, are you serious? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. You are too obsessed with appearance, so it's easy to be deceived. Nolan felt that if Mystique was in front of them, she would probably be able to deceive them. Too naive. Yuki Asuna. Hiss. If you don't look at the appearance, what do you look at? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Appearance is the most unreliable thing. Blood Demon. I agree with this. I was also very young before, but I always looked like this. Gambling Maniac. You are a demon, how can you be the same? Blood Demon. What's wrong? What's wrong with demons? Do you discriminate against demons? Nolan didn't care about what was going on in the group anymore. He yawned and fell asleep in the quilt. The next morning, Reed and Susan woke Nolan up. After breakfast, the two called Jonathan, the fireman, to look after Noran, and then left in a hurry. If it weren't for the two people's eyes, Noran was still young. The two of them could not go home. After all, they were really busy. Not only were they busy with work, they also had to be busy with mutants' affairs. If the sources of their abilities were calculated, they were still a little different from mutant. But they all had super abilities like mutant. Jonathan, my parents asked you to come and see me again. Noran sat on the sofa, pressing the remote control in his hand boredly. Hey, Noran, be respectful and call me uncle. Jonathan seemed to have stayed up late last night, so he yawned a little tiredly. Do you think I want to see you? If your parents didn't ask me, I wouldn't bother to see you. Then leave now and leave me alone. Noran pouted and said indifferently. That won't do. If something happens to you, your parents will kill me. Jonathan shook his head quickly. Then shut up. Nolan rolled his eyes. Ouch. Jonathan rolled up his sleeves. I wonder if you deserve a beating. Kids are the cutest, but I can't see that at all. Am I a kid? I'm only 10 days old. I'm just a baby. Nolan laughed. Jonathan clenched his fists, his mouth twitching slightly. That really makes sense. What the hell? But he didn't dare to do anything to Nolan. He's his nephew after all. Besides, he's just a kid. Who cares? Jonathan lay on the sofa again and exhaled comfortably. Okay, you can play by yourself. What to play? There's nothing fun here. Nolan shook his head, walked to Jonathan, and said sneakily, Hey, Jonathan, do you want to go out and play? That's not possible. Although Jonathan is a playboy, he is also a playboy. But he is still accurate in this matter. Nolan was originally unusual. And now it's very chaotic outside, and the struggle between mutants and humans has always existed. If I take him out, what should I do if something happens? Don't make a fuss, I know you want to go out too. Nolan has the ability to read minds, and he can see what Jonathan is thinking at a glance. He just came back from outer space after being mutated not long ago. In fact, he really wants to contact mutants. But Reed and Susan have been stopping him. With Jonathan's personality, if he encounters something bad, he will probably explode. Tisk, what does a kid know? Jonathan didn't care at all and tried to argue. You also want to meet mutant, Jonathan, let's go and take a look. Didn't my parents forbid you to go? Isn't it just right to go now? I won't say anything. If I say it, I will be scolded, right? Nolan used a little trick. It made him feel that what he said was extremely tempting. This is it. Jonathan became a little hesitant in an instant. Are you serious? Definitely, and I believe you can protect me. You are Jonathan the fireman. Nolan's words made Jonathan confident. Right. I'm Jonathan the fireman. How can I not protect a little kid like you? Jonathan stood up and opened his arms. It's just a mutant. I'm not afraid of anything. Let's go. Let's go now. Okay. Nolan nodded and went out of the house for the first time under Jonathan's leadership. Yes, this was his first time out of the house. After all, he was a 10-day-old baby. Even if it was, well, it didn't look like it. However, Reed and Susan had to consider whether he went out seriously. However, Jonathan was a little confused after he went out. Hiss. It seemed that he didn't know where to find mutants. The current situation between mutants and humans It's impossible for the former to mess around on the street. Unless he was unlucky and ran into a mutant who was going to cause trouble. This street is no different from before. Jonathan yawned, it's better to go home and sleep. Shish, just follow me, I'll take you to a good place. Nolan smiled mysteriously and dragged Jonathan towards the dark corners of the city. Jonathan didn't know what Nolan was doing, so he could only follow. Soon, the two came to a small alley. Really want to go in? Jonathan frowned. This kind of place is not safe at all. What are you afraid of? You are here. The two walked in. At the end of the alley, there is a mysterious little door. And in front of the little door, there are two muscular men standing. Their waist bags are bulging, and they are obviously rich. How do you know this kind of place? Jonathan's voice became low involuntarily. But Nolan ignored it. Two muscular men held out their hands to stop the two men and glanced at Nolan. Children are not allowed to enter here. As for you, please show your identity information. Jonathan was about to pull Nolan away. But Nolan waved his right hand, and the two strong men let go of their outstretched hands as if they were possessed by a ghost, pretending not to see the two men. Let's go, don't stand there. Nolan grabbed the stunned Jonathan and pushed open the small door and walked in. The hustle and bustle and tranquility outside the door were instantly replaced by the frenzy and chaos inside the door. In the center, a huge amount of octagonal cage stood there, like a modern version of the Roman Colosseum, except that what was staged here was not a fight between man and beast, but a cruel contest between man and man. Around the cage, countless spectators gathered in a circle, their faces twisted with excitement, and their eyes flashed with wild light. They either waved the betting tickets in their hands, or raised their fists high, roaring heartbreakingly. The sound was like the roar of the beast, deafening. These white-collar workers who are usually glamorous in the outside world, at this moment, show the most primitive, bloody and violent side of human nature. Their suits and leather shoes are incompatible with the atmosphere here, but they integrate strangely together, forming a twisted harmony. Jonathan frowned slightly. There was an unpleasant odor in the air, which was a mixture of sweat and blood. He looked around quickly. Sure enough, there were many people holding rifles, standing in various corners, staring at every move below. The wrathful curses came one after another, and the emotions of the audience became more and more intense as the game progressed. They cursed their opponents and cheered for their own fighters, as if they could pass on their strength to them. Here, moral constraints were completely abandoned, and people were crazy just for the pleasure of that moment. How did you find such a place? Noran, this matter is serious. Jonathan wanted to speak in a low voice. But there is no doubt that in such a place, if you speak softly, you can't hear it at all. He yelled. Noran didn't bother to pay attention at all. He looked at the ring. Jonathan, isn't this what you want to see? His voice was obviously not loud, very normal. But it floated into Jonathan's ears. He heard it clearly. For some reason, he looked at the two fighters fighting on the ring. It didn't matter if he didn't look at it, but when he looked at it, he was a little surprised. The fighters fighting on it. They were not ordinary people, nor were they black boxers. But mutants. One had extremely thick hair on his body, and the other had a fist that was completely turned into iron. The iron fist hit the other's hair, and it actually made a clanging sound of metal clashing. Both were mutants. This is actually a fight between mutants. Jonathan was shocked. No wonder Noran said that this was what he wanted to see. But what he wanted to see was mutants, not fighting. Soon, the winner was decided on the ring. The man with the iron fist found an opportunity and punched through the hairy man's vitals. At that moment, cheers resounded throughout the small world. Although the iron fist was covered with dense wounds, he raised his hand at this moment to enjoy the glory that belonged to him. As this, mandatory. Jonathan saw the wires on the cage. His eyes narrowed slightly. An indescribable feeling rose in his heart. Although he was not a mutant, he was better than a mutant. This is the epitome of most mutants lives in human society. They are rejected and controlled by humans. They are used as a tool for entertainment. After all, what is better than watching guys with special functions fighting for them? I can't stand it. Jonathan looked at the two mutants on the ring. It seemed that he saw his future fate. He was a bit hot-tempered and straightforward, so he clenched his fists. Noran saw what Jonathan was thinking. He smiled and didn't care. Jonathan frowned, as if there was an indispersible dark cloud hanging over his heart. He was in a heavy mood. It was as if he was tightly bound by an invisible force, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. This was his first time to come into contact with the dark side of mutants. Although his little nephew Norin was by his side, it was difficult to calm his inner waves at this moment. His palms trembled involuntarily. It seemed that there was a force surging in his body. Looking for an outlet for venting. Jonathan's eyes flashed with a trace of determination, as if he had made a major decision. He slowly raised his hand, palm up. A ball of blazing fire gathered in his hand. The light was like the brightest star in the night sky, but it also carried a breath of destruction. Boom! As he flipped his wrist, the ball of fire burst out like a wild horse. It went straight to the power system on the second floor. It was a dazzling fire that cut through the darkness, carrying Jonathan's deep anger and suffocation, and crashed into the electric box. Bang! There was a loud bang. Like thunder, the electric box exploded instantly under the impact of the fire. Sparks flew, and metal fragments flew like raindrops. Huge amounts of roars echoed throughout the room, making people's eardrums hurt. The heat wave swept in like a gust of wind, igniting the surrounding air and forming a sea of fire. The guards standing by the power box seemed so helpless in the face of this sudden attack. Even with hot weapons in their hands, they were like small grasses swaying in the wind and rain. They were knocked to the ground by the heat in the aftermath of the explosion. Some covered their wounds in pain, while others had already lost consciousness. Their figures seemed so small in the firelight, as if they could be swallowed by this destructive force at any time. The whole house erupted with screams of fear. Countless people who were just screaming excitedly began to flee in all directions as if they saw a cat. The surrounding soldiers also quickly locked onto Jonathan, and one by one raised their guns and pointed them at him, shouting in a cowardly manner, "Stop it!" However, since Jonathan had already decided to take action, how could he stop with just one word? He once again erupted with flames from his hands, melting the metal cage. The Iron Fist mutant, who was stunned by the external situation, suddenly reacted. He looked at Jonathan with gratitude and immediately got out of the gap in the cage. The mutant escaped, and the soldiers became even more nervous. But the guns in their hands were so powerless in the face of the crowd. You know, these are their sponsors. If they shoot, they will surely kill many of the gods of wealth who give them money. But if they don't shoot, the mutant will escape in the end. These mutants are also wealth for them. However, after just a moment of sluggishness, the mutant Iron Fist has disappeared in the crowd. Chase, chase, chase. Chase them all. Immediately, chase them back for me. Also, catch the murderer. Rage, the captain of the guard in charge of this house, gave orders on the intercom. The guards immediately began to surround Jonathan. And Jonathan finally realized what he had done, picked up Norin and ran outside. Well done, Jonathan. That's what we should do. So cool. So exciting. Let's make a scene. Nolan clapped his hands excitedly. He was just like a little devil who was not afraid of trouble. My little ancestor, your uncle has been hurt by you. Jonathan secretly groaned in his heart. He didn't dare to stop for a moment. And behind him, several guards shot at them one after another. Jonathan was about to be hit. Nolan, who was laughing, raised his hand with a playful smile to suspend the bullet, and blew a breath casually. The bullet flew back at a faster speed, and the guards fell to the ground instantly, without a sound. Jonathan didn't realize how strong his nephew was. He was a little nervous. It's over, it's over, it's over. If I get caught, I'm definitely finished. In fact, if he used his ability, then he could easily escape. But he didn't dare to do that because Norin was around. That would only make the situation worse. He just wanted to have fun, not to cause trouble. But who knew that while he was having fun, he would think of himself. Your mother. He is actually similar to Mutant. Seeing his compatriots being abused like this, he definitely couldn't help it. Jonathan ran all the way and escaped. On the street, many cars and guards had gathered, frantically looking for people on the street. It can only be said that these people are really rampant. The umbrella behind them must have something. Otherwise, they would not dare to arrest people so openly. Shish, don't run, Jonathan. Nolan patted Jonathan on the back and said, Didn't you notice that they can't see you? Huh. Jonathan finally reacted. These guards around him seemed to ignore him one by one and just ran around in front of him. Who is helping us? Nolan looked at Jonathan like a fool. Do you think it's possible that I'm helping us? Ah. Jonathan looked at Nolan in shock. Nolan, are you serious? Definitely serious. Nolan jumped off him. How is it? This ability is good, right? Yes, it's good. Jonathan nodded, and then suddenly reacted. No, when did you get the ability? I have to tell my sister and brother-in-law. He seemed a little nervous at the moment. As people who have been irradiated by cosmic energy. Especially as a couple. What Reed and Susan are most concerned about is whether the little life born will have any problems due to cosmic energy. Nolan is a good example in their eyes. Growing up to 10 years old in 10 days. In fact, they thoroughly checked Nolan on the 6th day. It's just that there is no problem. Every function of the body should be what a 6-year-old child should have. It's not that growing up to 6 years old is actually similar to a 6-day baby. This makes them feel at ease at the same time. I was a little scared again. So I have been deliberately concerned about whether Noran would have some ability like them. But Noran never showed it. He was not much different from an ordinary child. Until just now. The first thing Jonathan thought of was to tell his sister and brother-in-law. Whatever you want. In any case, Noran didn't actually want to hide his ability. He was mainly afraid that he would show too much. He would scare his parents in this life all of a sudden. Let's go now. Jonathan grabbed Noran and ran home. Their family is considered a wealthy family, otherwise they can't afford scientific research, and they have a building in New York. After Jonathan returned home, he immediately contacted Reed and Susan. No matter how busy at the moment, Reed and Susan wanted to return home quickly from the laboratory. However, after calming down, they chose to let Jonathan bring people to their experimental base quickly. Although there are equipment at home, it is obviously not as good as the one in the experimental base. Jonathan brought Noran to the experimental base. Reed and Susan quickly began to check him whole body and mind. After the physical examination was normal. Then they began to check the ability. What we can know now is, even if it is infrared, even if it is thermal imaging, there is no way to see you who are invisible. This ability does not look like optical invisibility, but a real disappearance. Or in other words, Reed and Susan kept analyzing from various angles. It can be seen. They are very nervous about Noran. Noran reminded at this time, it is not optical invisibility, nor is it a real disappearance. It's just that you can't see me in your mind. Wait. Is there an ability about the mind? Reed and Susan looked at each other. Instantly thought of a person. Professor X, Charles. Charles can also shield himself in the minds of others. As for thermal imaging, wouldn't it be better if they could see the real thermal imaging but not feel it appear? To put it bluntly, even if the machine can detect thermal imaging, doesn't it also need to be seen by the naked eye and then processed by the mind? Go find Charles when you have a chance. Neither Reed nor Susan spoke. They could already sense what the other was thinking. The matter of his son. It must be taken seriously. And it must be taken very seriously. They are considered halfway mutants. They know a lot of things, and they can't be compared with the real mutants. And Professor X Charles. He is a natural mutant. And he has been committed to the research of mutant genes since he was a child. It can be said that no one in the world knows mutants better than him. Professional matters. Still need to find professionals. So, Jonathan, how did you find out that Noran has this ability? Susan looked at Jonathan with a bit of unkindness. Jonathan was speechless, and after a long while hesitating, he could not say anything. Reed could not help but frown. It was Noran who came to the rescue and said, I found it first, and then told Jonathan. Jonathan looked at Noran gratefully. Susan and Reed were both skeptical. But Noran said so. What else could they say? In the chat group of Wanji. Blood Demon. Hee, I said I was a good person. At pot cover headmaster. How about it, passerby, is the method I gave you very useful? Yuki Asuna. Ah. What method? What did you talk about behind his back? Blood Demon. That was definitely teaching him how to pick up girls. Blood Demon. Although he didn't beat Boros, I think his attitude is good, so I still taught him. How about it? I said I am a good demon. Universe overlord. So, Peva actually went to find Shigeo Kageyama privately. Specially taught him how to pick up girls and how to please girls. Blood demon. At pot-head leader. Come out, tell me, did you succeed in picking up girls? Pothead leader. No, I failed. I was called a psychopath and now I'm being lectured by the teacher. He's afraid that I'll commit suicide. Yuki Asuna. Gambling maniac. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Everyone in the group was full of questions. Meow meow meow. What kind of way to pick up girls can be called a psychopath and be lectured by the teacher? Only Norin was not particularly surprised. After all, he had long expected that Peva's idea could not be a good idea. But, to be honest, he was also very curious. What exactly did Peva teach? Blood demon. Ah. Blood demon. Impossible. If it were me, I would be very happy if someone like this did something like this in front of me. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. You'd be very happy. No wonder people call passersby psychopaths. Yuki Asuna. Tell me about it. Gambling maniac. Curious +1. Pothead leader. This is what happened. At the beginning. As expected. Peva's method is not reliable at all. Her method is very straightforward. She even follows her own way. But that's the only thing that's unreliable. How can humans and demons be the same? Peva is a blood demon. What she likes most is blood. So, the method she gave to Kageyama Shigeo is very simple. That is, if you like a girl, just go up to her, cut off your wrist, and then confess with blood. Hiss. When they heard this confession method, everyone in the Wanji chat group knew that something bad was going to happen. Even Boros was full of questions at the moment. Although he was always fighting and loved fighting the most. But it didn't mean that he had a problem with his IQ. Sure enough, the following description of Kageyama Shigeo. It was a bad thing. He actually did it. The little girl in junior high school was frightened on the spot. Tears came down all at once. Her best friend next to her immediately scolded Kageyama Shigeo as a psychopath. Then, many students gathered around. Finally, the security guards came, and then the teacher. The teacher didn't dare to say anything to Kageyama Shigeo. After all, this was something that only a student with a problem in the brain could do. Whose good person cuts his wrist to ask for love? 9 out of 10 have autism, depression, mania. If he said a few more words, the teacher would be afraid that Kageyama Shigeo would jump off the building. That's all. After listening to the whole story. What else can everyone in the chat group say? Yuki Asuna. Gambling maniac. Universe overlord. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I can only say. Amazing. Amazing. Blood demon. Why are you so silent? I think passersby are doing very well. Yuki Asuna. Awesome. Awesome. Gambling maniac. I thought I was no longer a normal person, but I didn't expect that there are masters. Yuki Asuna. Why do you believe what the devil Peva said? Blood demon. Hey. Blood demon. Asu, what do you mean? Although I am a devil, I am a demon, but I am telling the truth. Peva actually blushed a little. Gambling maniac. I'm afraid only passersby would be so naive to believe what Peva said. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Passersby are still too naive. Although Peva is telling the truth, can the devil think the same as normal people? Pot cut leader. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. At pot-cut leader, passersby, think carefully. Do you look like running to a girl to commit suicide, and use suicide to threaten her to become your girlfriend? Pot cut leader. Pot cut leader. Thinking carefully, it seems to be true. Should I say it or not? Kageyama Shigeo is indeed naive. And he is not just ordinary naive. I just believe whatever Peva says. I don't consider the consequences at all. Pothead leader. Blood demon. Yuki Asuna. At blood demon, Peva. Yuki Asuna. Peva, everyone knows you have no other intentions, but when you teach the passerby, you should think about it. The passerby is an ordinary person. Well, barely. He lives in an ordinary human world, and he certainly can't use the devil's way to pick up girls, don't you think? Blood demon. Well, you are right. Okay, this time it's my fault. Blood demon. Next time I will think it over carefully. My problem. Kageyama Shigeo didn't mean to blame Pava. After all, Pava's original intention was good. It's just that the method. Maybe he didn't grasp it so accurately. And just when everyone in the chat group was having a good chat. Ding, Nezuko, join the chat group. Ding, Deadpool, join the chat group. Gambling Maniac, a new member has joined the group. Universe Overlord, yes. Pot Cover Leader, welcome, new member. Blood Demon, welcome, welcome, warm welcome. Deadpool, what the hell is this, is it a variant ability? Marvel's strongest elementary school student, hey, isn't this Little Deadbeat? Deadpool, how do you know me? Wait, Little Deadbeat isn't my name, but it feels familiar for some reason. Hiss. Get out of my head quickly, or I'll kill myself for you to see. Said. Wade jumped directly from the tall building. Bang. Dead. Oh. Not dead. Shit, why haven't you gotten out of my head yet? Wade scratched his head, puzzled. Until everyone took action and explained it. Wade believed that there really was such a thing as a chat group in the world. Deadpool. Oh, why didn't you tell me earlier? I jumped off the building for nothing. Yuki Asuna. What? You jumped off the building. Are you okay? Deadpool. It's okay, I just have some broken bones all over my body, just lie down and it will be fine. Yuki Asuna. Gambling Maniac. What? Did I hear it wrong? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Don't worry, you heard it right, this guy, Xiao Zhangjian, has a very strong self-healing ability. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Even if you cut off his head, it will grow back. Deadpool. Not bad, not bad. Gambling Maniac. Sure enough, no one who joins the Wanji chat group is a simple person. Yuki Asuna. Hiss, I feel like I'm quite simple. Compared to you, I'm really just an ordinary person. Although she is a top student. But among this group of people. Except for her. The most ordinary Yumeko Jabami. That is also living in a world where gambling is the glory. She is just an ordinary student who is good at studying. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Don't worry, Asuna, you are not an ordinary person either. Yuki Asuna. Ah. Norin, do you know anything? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I know much more than you can imagine, you and I know everything. Gambling Maniac. Cosmic Overlord. Pothead Leader. Blood Demon. Yuki Asuna. Really? Is this really not an omniscient and omnipotent god? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Not that powerful, just average. Norin does have an ability called omniscience and omnipotence. What a pity. In the world of Marvel, the most worthless description is omniscience and omnipotence. Everything can have a little bit of omniscience and omnipotence. But it is still defeated by more powerful people. What's the matter? You are omniscient and omnipotent, and I am also omniscient and omnipotent. My omniscience and omnipotence are better than yours. Then I can kill your omniscience and omnipotence. Marvel is such a nesting doll. Yuki Asuna. Hiss, omniscience and omnipotence are just so-so, Nolan, you are invincible. Gambling Maniac. As Nolan's servant, can I also be omniscience and omnipotence? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. You are dreaming, Yumeko, although it is common, not everyone has it. Nolan. Too lazy to spray. Deadpool. Wow, brother is so awesome, how well does brother know me, I really want to know, hee hee. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Get out, don't be in this barber shop, it disgusts me. Nolan frowned. If it was just a joke with a good brother, it would be fine. But you have to know that the guy in front of him is Deadpool, Wade. Wade is a real bisexual. He is a man who likes both men and women. When I think of Wade's expression when he said this. Norin felt so sick that he felt like vomiting. Deadpool. Don't be like this, brother, can you tell me what will happen to me next? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Hee hee. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I advise you to shut up now, otherwise the consequences will be serious. Deadpool. I don't want it, I don't want it. Yuki Asuna. So disgusting. Gambling Maniac. No wonder Norin called this guy a little jerk, it really fits the name, little jerk. Blood Demon. So there are such people in human society, I really have grown my eyes. Pot Cover Leader. Is this something a child can see? Covering eyes. Norin sneered. Hee hee. Does the little jerk think he can't cure him? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Little jerk, I have to remind you that you and I exist in the same world. I can find you right now. Deadpool. Deadpool. Wade was a little dumbfounded. Didn't we agree that we are not in the same world? How come you and I are in the same world? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Hee hee, wait, you will die miserably. Deadpool. Wade's eyes twitched wildly. Deadpool. Didn't we say that everyone is not in the same world, so it is called Wanji? He loves to play. But, who would have thought that in the Wanji chat group, the first person he teased was actually someone from the same world as himself? I'm honest now, please let me go. Deadpool. I'm honest, really honest, I won't play abstraction again. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I warned you, now you're honest. It's useless. Yuki Asuna. Awesome, you are worthy of being called a little. The first thing you do when you join the group is to provoke the strongest person in our group. Deadpool. No. Now he's really honest. Not only is he in the same world as me, he's even the strongest in the group. Now Wade is really honest. It's a pity that being honest is useless now. Nolan was disgusted. If he saw Wade, it's hard not to arrange something for him. Just when everyone was chatting happily, Nezuko, who had not appeared for a while, was in a tough battle. Demon Slayer World. Yukuoku, Hanamaki. Nezuko did not appear, not because she did not want to, but because of Kamado Tanjiro. Kamado Tanjiro was her brother. Kamado Tanjiro accepted the case issued by the Demon Slayer Corps to investigate whether there were evil spirits in Hanamaki. The result was that there were, but they were not ordinary demons. Not even lower-ranked demons. But real upper-ranked demons. You know, it has been 100 years since an upper-ranked demon was killed. You can imagine how powerful an upper-ranked demon is. Seeing Kamado Tanjiro fall into danger, Nezuko was anxious and could not stay in the box any longer. She turned from a small one into a big one, with demon horns growing on her forehead and patterns appearing on her body, completing her transformation into a demon. She fought with upper-rank Raikudaki. However, after the transformation into a demon, the strength increased, and the side effects were also obvious. That is, she could no longer control her urge to eat people. Fortunately, Tanjiro tried his best to stop Nezuko, otherwise she would really not be able to help eating people. Recovered from the demonization, Nezuko burst into tears after realizing what she had just done. At the same time, she also remembered that she had the 10,000 Worlds chat group. Tanjiro. Tanjiro was confused. What chat group? Nezuko did not answer. She was very tired. She did not eat people. Then what she had to do was to use sleep to restore her physical strength. She shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. She gradually curled up on the ground and closed her eyes. And the moment before she closed her eyes and fell asleep. Nezuko. Everyone, save me, and my brother. After reluctantly saying this sentence, Nezuko fell asleep because of the energy consumed in the previous battle. Yuki Asuna. Meow meow meow. What do you mean? Blood demon. What's going on? A newbie just joined the group and needs help. Gambling maniac. Hey hey hey, newbie, can you please speak more clearly? Universe overlord. Pothead leader. Could he be dead? Yuki Asuna. Shish, that shouldn't be the case, right? If he was dead, there should be a prompt in the 10,000 Worlds chat group. Gambling maniac. What should we do now? Gambling maniac. I feel like I'm suffering because I joined the group with little Deadpool. Deadpool. Nolan looked at the situation in the group. Nezuko. Isn't this Demon Slayer? It seems like there should be danger of encountering demons. But, it's just average. Ding. Detected group member, Nezuko's strong desire for help, hereby issued a task. Task content: the Kamado siblings and their colleagues encountered an unprecedented enemy. Upper 6. In crisis, Tanjiro is about to lose. Please uphold the purpose of the 10,000 Worlds chat group and go to rescue. Task reward: unknown reward. Note 1: this mission is a single-player mission. During the mission, you can go to the world of group member, Nezuko, for free. The mission time is 24 hours. After 24 hours, you will be forced to teleport back to the original world regardless of whether the mission is completed. Note 2: the chat group tool task system is turned on. Group members can freely post tasks or the chat group can post tasks. The rewards are determined by the posting group members or given by the chat group. Yuki Asuna. Any task. Gambling. The chat group has a new tool. Quote. Tomorrow is not the point. It seems to. Gambling magic. If you say that, I can't help it. Rock. The Lord of the Pot Lid. I should have no problem. The Blood Demon. Uncle Ben. Hey, hee hee, punch. Marvel's strongest primary school student. In fact, well, except Hama and Mungza, you can. The Blade of Ghosts is a bit weak. There shouldn't be any problem. At most, you just need to pay a little price. Deadpool. So simple. Then can't I go too? Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Yes, but I want to go. Ding. Group member, Marvel's strongest elementary school student, has accepted the task. Deadpool. You. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. What? Are you dissatisfied? Deadpool. Hiss. No, how dare I be dissatisfied, how dare I, woo. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Okay, get out of here, I'm too lazy to spray. Blood Demon. Just wanted to answer, if it's Norin, forget it. Yuki Asuna. Can you live broadcast, Norin? We also want to see what's going on. Gambling Maniac. Master, I want to watch it too. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Small problem. Demon Slayer. Norin crossed his arms. Demon Slayer. He must know. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how powerful it is. Let's talk about it. He just couldn't do anything through the Wanji chat group now. See the mission. Although Nezuko herself didn't come out. But at the moment they should be visiting Guahua Street. Nolan quietly hid aside. Then, he opened the portal of the mission. Wanji shuttle, start. A brilliant light bloomed quietly, it was like a colorful black hole. This light is not a simple accumulation of colors. It is a wonderful experience beyond vision. It contains an unfathomable sense of mystery. It seems that the most secret in the universe has been revealed at this moment. Nolan looked deeply at this space-time portal. The edge of the light is a soft gradient color band. It gradually transitions from deep blue and purple to warm orange and yellow. It is like the most gentle nebula in the night sky, and like the glow of the sky at dawn. These colors are intertwined together to form a harmony and balance that cannot be fully described in words. They converge at the center of the light. Yet it seemed to be constantly rotating and spreading. As if telling an eternal cycle. Nolan wanted to try to analyze this space-time gate. But he found that, with his current strength, he simply couldn't do it. Sure enough. The chat group of all realms is not simple at all. Nolan was not surprised. He spread his hands and shrugged. He stepped into it. 3, 2, 1. Ripples spread across the space. Nolan's body was completely immersed in it. And the space-time portal suddenly closed at this moment. It was as if nothing had happened. While traveling, Nolan was also looking for a live broadcast tool in the group. Group live broadcast or something. He soon found it. Ding! Group member, Marvel's strongest elementary school student, starts live broadcast. Universe Overlord, enter the live broadcast room. Deadpool, enter the live broadcast room. Pothead Leader, enter the live broadcast room. Yuki Asuna, enter the live broadcast room. Gambling Maniac, enter the live broadcast room. In the live broadcast room. Yuguo. On both sides of the street, those exquisite wooden buildings. Now they look like the wreckage forgotten by time, the wooden beams are charred and twisted, and the tiles are broken and scattered all over the ground. On the stone slabs of the street. Cracks crisscross. Dust and ashes mixed together to form a thick layer of covering. The air was filled with thick smoke, which was the smell of burning wood and paper, mixed with a hint of burnt smell. And Tanjiro Kamado. After a battle. He was lying on the ground, breathing out more than breathing in. In front of him was a guy with an abominable face. He was thin, as if a gust of wind could blow him down. His skin was close to his bones, revealing an unhealthy paleness. He looked extremely scary, especially the birthmark on his face, which was like an irregular shadow covering his cheek, adding a bit of weirdness to his face. Officially Upper 6, Butaro. Butaro held a bone sickle tightly in his hand, squatted down strangely and smiled, as if he wanted to torture Tanjiro Kamado. And Tanjiro Kamado, even though he was seriously injured at the moment. Not only was he poisoned, but he was in great pain all over his body. He had to protect the box behind him. Because it was his only family. Gyutaro had a weird smile on his face. You are interesting. But, that's all. Just when Futaro was about to do something to Kamado Tanjiro. The brilliant light seemed to open a black hole. A figure walked out of it. He was about 1.8 meters tall. Handsome face, sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. As if it was a work carefully carved by God. Every line revealed an indescribable charm. A dazzling golden hair fluttered slightly. Wearing a combination of trousers and a white shirt, only 2 buttons of the shirt were buttoned, and the top few buttons were not buttoned. This casual way of wearing just showed some of his chest muscles. The lines are perfect. It is not the exaggerated muscularity of a muscular man. It is not the slenderness of a skinny monkey that lacks strength. It is a kind of just right symmetry. Full of health and tension. But, see this handsome guy. Everyone in the chat group of Wanji. Except Deadpool. All of them had question marks on their faces. Gambling maniac. Universe overlord. Pot cut leader. Blood demon. Yuki Asuna. Gambling maniac. Who is this? Deadpool. Hey, isn't this an elementary school student? Could it be someone else? Could the 10,000 Worlds chat group be wrong? Gambling maniac. Never seen, don't know, not familiar. Pot cut leader. Never seen, don't know, not familiar. Blood demon. Never seen, don't know, not familiar. Yuki Asuna. Never seen, don't know, not familiar. Looking at the never seen, don't know, not familiar in the 10,000 Worlds chat group. Norin laughed dumbly. He slightly adjusted the collar on his chest. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. This is me, I just adjusted my body age. Yuki Asuna. I should have guessed it. Hiss, so 10 days is really true. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. It's fake, I'm 11 days old now. Gambling maniac. You can adjust your body age if you want, master, adjust me. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. I'm still young, no rush. Yuki Asuna. Ahem, be careful, be a little careful, both of you, there are children in the group. Deadpool. Meow. Marvel's strongest elementary school student. Meow, disgusting. Deadpool. No, I'm just confused. I can understand your words, but why can't I understand them together? Wade is indeed a little confused. After all, he doesn't know a lot of things. He's just a little newbie who just joined the group not long ago. Gambling maniac. But, I have to say, when Norin grows up, he is really handsome. Yuki Asuna. Hiss. Blood demon. Shish, whistling, handsome guy. Several girls are obviously very satisfied with Norin after he grows up. Especially Jabami Yumeko. She never expected Norin to be so handsome. Although he was also a little boy when he was young, you can see what he will look like when he grows up. But there are also examples of people who looked good when they were young but became ugly when they grew up. At least Jabami Yumeko is very satisfied. No. Why should I be satisfied? Do I really think of him as my master? Hiss. No choice. All except the loss. Norin was too lazy to pay attention to Wade. Instead, he looked at the stunned prostitute Taro and Kamado Tanjiro. One person and one ghost, their minds were. Where is this? What happened? What was that thing just now? Who suddenly appeared? Is it your reinforcements from the Demon Slayer Corps? Taro weighed the bone sickle in his hand, tilted his head and smiled evilly. Ah. Tanjiro Kamado was also confused. I haven't received any news that the Demon Slayer Corps has sent someone. But it's possible. After all, there is so much noise here. Okay, don't think about it. Nolan crossed his arms and shook his head. He stretched out his hand and hooked it. The box behind Tanjiro Kamado naturally untied and flew in front of him. Seeing this scene, Tanjiro Kamado was so anxious that he stood up directly from the ground and rushed towards Norin. What are you doing? Let go of Nezuko. Tanjiro Kamado was really angry. There was no way. Nezuko was his only relative in this world. Even if Norin was a member of the Demon Slayer Corps. He couldn't let the Demon Slayer Corps control his sister. You know. Most of the pillars at the beginning wanted to get rid of Nezuko. Therefore, Tanjiro Kamado would not give these people any chance to contact Nezuko. Unfortunately, he was facing Norin. Norin raised his hand slightly. Tanjiro Kamado was suddenly blocked by a barrier. He stayed where he was and couldn't move. Norin waved his hand casually, and the door of the box opened, revealing Nezuko, who was sleeping inside. She's sleeping soundly, there should be no problem. The self-healing ability of the demons in the Demon Slayer world is still worth seeing. Nezuko doesn't eat people. Replenish energy by sleeping. As long as there is energy, everything can be restored naturally. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Tanjiro Kamado struggled desperately. But it was useless. If Norin's method could make him break free, that would be strange. Hey 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 hey. Gifu Taro looked at Norin and Tanjiro Kamado. He frowned slightly. He made a very unhappy sound. Please respect me a little, I'm still here. He raised his sickle. He rushed towards Norin. I didn't ask you to speak, so just shut up. Norin glanced casually. Swish. In an instant, Gifu Taro held up the sickle and stopped where he was. He looked at Norin. His body trembled involuntarily because of extreme fear. His heartbeat was like being hit by a heavy hammer, and every beat brought a burst of severe pain. The glance just now was only a brief moment. But it left an indelible impression in his heart. At that moment, Gifu Taro seemed to see the stars collapse in the boundless darkness, the order of the universe was annihilated in an instant, and all existence vanished in the face of an irresistible force. The scene of destruction echoed in his mind. The earth seemed so small and vulnerable in front of that power. Who? His breathing became rapid. His eyes gradually blurred, and the world in front of him seemed to be shaking, as if it would collapse at any time. As the owner of this power, Norin. How should he fight? You can't win, you absolutely can't win. Even if it's the Ghost King, you can't win. Don't even think about it. This is impossible. Gifu Taro's heart was filled with despair. He felt an unprecedented sense of powerlessness. In front of that power, he felt like a speck of dust. Insignificant. It could be completely wiped out at any time. His legs were weak and he could barely support his body. With a thump, the prostitute Taro knelt on the ground. He covered his face in pain. Tanjiro Kamado, who had no idea what was happening, was dumbfounded. Including the group members. Gambling maniac. Meow meow meow. Why did this ghost suddenly kneel down? Blood demon. Could it be, this is the legendary King Leora? Deadpool. I kneel too, I kneel too. Yuki Asuna. She looks scared, maybe she saw something. Nolan glanced at Nezuko in his hand. He waved it casually. He put it back in the box. Then he gave it back to Tanjiro Kamado. Tanjiro Kamado, who was untied, hugged the box tightly, looked at Norin, and couldn't help asking, who are you? He also saw it. If the person in front of him had bad intentions towards them, then he had no chance to resist. Didn't you see the prostitute Taro who beat them up without any chance to fight back? They just looked at him and he made them kneel on the ground. Nezuko should have said that just now. The chat group of the 10,000 Worlds. Nolan smiled slightly and didn't say much. Tanjiro Kamado is a smart man. At this moment, he also knew that it was related to Nezuko. He held the box tighter. Nezuko. It turned out to be you. You saved me, you saved us. Tears slid down Tanjiro Kamado's face. He seemed to want to cry loudly. But he forced himself to hold it back and could only lower his head and sob continuously. Okay, there's nothing to cry about. Although you are young, I am younger than you. Nolan shook his head. He couldn't stand seeing people cry the most. Men and women are the same. Ah. Tanjiro Kamado raised his head in confusion. Younger than me. Full of question marks. Really or false? Maybe it was just a casual remark. Just. Dead. Everyone is dead. Seeing that he couldn't help crying again. Nolan turned his right hand, and the surrounding wooden boards and stones trembled. Who told you that everyone is dead? The wooden boards and stones seemed to be controlled by an invisible force. They all made vibrating sounds. Then, the three people floated up one by one as if being pulled by a mysterious gravity. They flew towards Nolan and Tanjiro Kamado. The armless sound pillar Uzui Tengen, the buried Agatsuma Zenitsu and Hashibira Inosuke. Ah. It hurts. It hurts. Am I going to die? Am I going to die? Woo woo woo, I don't want to die yet. Agatsuma Zenitsu's body swayed in the air, constantly wailing in pain, crying and howling, his voice full of fear and helplessness. His expression was distorted, obviously he was in great pain, but even so, his vitality was still tenacious and he could not die. Uzui Tengen and Hashibira Inosuke were slightly calmer than Agatsuma Zenitsu. But only slightly. Although the movements of the two were not as intense as Agatsuma Zenitsu, their survival status could also be seen. Not particularly optimistic. All three were placed in front of Tanjiro Kamado. But, at least, all alive. Everyone is alive. Tanjiro Kamado burst into laughter and shouted in surprise. And heard his shout. The unconscious Uzui Tengen and Inosuke Hashibira also woke up. Although Inosuke Hashibira suddenly spurted out a mouthful of blood from his mouth. There were also some internal organs mixed in it. But he still laughed. Ahahaha, I knew it, Tanjiro, my best friend, you will definitely not die. He seemed to want to get up. But he was stopped by Tanjiro Kamado. No, don't get up. Uzui Tengen leaned on the rocks of the ruins, panting lightly, and asked calmly, did the support of the Demon Slayer Corps arrive? No. No. Tanjiro Kamado shook his head. Mr. Sound Pillar, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain, so forget it. Uzui Tengen smiled freely, as long as the problem can be solved. Zenitsu Agatsuma was still howling there. From the sound of his full energy, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Nolan glanced over. Isn't this a happy ending? Uzui Tengen seemed to be about to ask. But he found a certain upper-rank demon kneeling beside him and doubting his life. He is an upper-rank demon. He's not dead yet. Instantly, Uzui Tengen stood up from the ground. Hachinohara Inosuke picked up his weapon. Zenitsu Agatsuma stopped shouting. Seeing another tense scene, Tanjiro Kamado said quickly, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay now. He is not threatening at all. Hearing what Tanjiro Kamado said, Uzui Tengen and others were all confused. What is going on, Tanjiro? Tanjiro Kamado glanced at Nolan. And Nolan just spread his hands. So, he thought for a while. Hide some things, mainly how Nolan made Jifutaro become like this. And just as Tanjiro Kamado was explaining, Nolan walked slowly in front of Jifutaro. He looked at Jifutaro kneeling on the ground with a smile on his face. Then, Jifutaro seemed to be controlled. He couldn't help but raise his head. At that fateful moment, Jifutaro and Nolan's eyes met. His world seemed to be controlled by an invisible force. Instantly fell into darkness and despair. Abba. Jifutaro's throat seemed to be tightly strangled by an invisible hand. Unable to breathe, unable to speak. He could only constantly open and close his lips. His movements were like a fish thrown onto the shore. Struggling in vain, longing for that drop of life-saving water. Soon, as Noran's smile became brighter and brighter, Jifutaro's body began to change. An extremely hot heat wave gushed out of his body. It was as if the flames of hell were burning in his blood vessels. His skin turned red, like an iron plate scorched by fire, and the fire from inside made his outline extremely clear. His eyes, mouth, ears, every orifice glowed red. Like a lit lantern, it illuminated the darkness around. Jifutaro's skin, muscles, bones. Everything quickly charred under the high temperature. Like a fragile piece of paper, it quickly curled and turned black under the licking of the flame. Finally, it turned into a ball of burnt ash and drifted away with the wind. This evil ghost with the blood of countless people on his hands finally returned to silence. Only a pile of ashes was left to witness his existence. Very weak, very weak. Nolan felt that he looked at Jifutaro for one more time. He was too proud of him. On the other side, Uzui Tengen and others who had listened to Tanjiro Kamado's narration. They also noticed the situation here. They looked at the ashes on the ground in shock. Wait, Upper 6. Died so easily. However, only Noran knew. I don't know yet. He laughed. A certain scumbag Ghost King should be scared to death now. When he thought of the Ghost King's appearance, Noran couldn't help laughing. And just as Noran said, in a villa on the edge of a certain city. This is a study. The bookshelves are filled with various books, arranged in an orderly manner. However, most of them are medical books. In addition, there are many records about rare and exotic herbs. In this space full of books, there stood a man in a suit and leather shoes. He looked handsome, with distinct facial features, but he always gave people an indescribable evil nature. His suit was well cut and his tie was neatly tied. However, he looked a little embarrassed at the moment. He leaned forward slightly while holding onto the bookshelf, panting constantly, with beads of sweat dripping down his forehead, as if he had just experienced a fierce battle. His eyes could not help but turn into vertical pupils. His strange ghost teeth were also revealed. His sharp nails were like beasts. This was no one else. It was Muzan Kibutsuji. No. Impossible. How could such a person exist in this world? Impossible. Muzan Kibutsuji was still holding a book in his hand. He could not help but clench his fists and instantly tore the book into pieces. His body was tense. He saw everything that Jifutaro had just seen. Absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. Muzan Kibutsuji was unwilling to believe it. But everything just now was too real. It seemed to be happening right in front of him. And, girl Taro is really dead. Upper rank. The upper rank that has not been killed for 100 years. Dead. Died so quietly. Died so easily, so carelessly. This is even more credible. I will come to you, Muzan Kibutsuji. Muzan Kibutsuji thought of the man's whisper. Instantly. His hair stood on end, and cold sweat flowed down. What? I beat that man. Is it true? Muzan Kibutsuji grabbed the bookshelf. He overturned the bookshelf with one hand. It seemed that he was using this to relieve his anger and cowardice. He couldn't accept his cowardice. But he didn't dare to face the person in his mind just now. So he could only vent on these things that were weaker than him. And the movement here was a bit loud. The servants in the villa were attracted. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. Sir, do you have any questions? Muzan turned his head and looked at the study door. There was a sinister look in his pupils. Ah. Soon. The screams of fear resounded throughout the villa. The blood and fire instantly covered the quiet and peaceful atmosphere. Kill your whole family, leave no trace, and run away. Nolan sighed. This is indeed what Muzan can do. These innocent people died because of him. He still felt a little guilty. Wait for me. He glanced at Uzui Tengen and others who were still in shock. He disappeared instantly. When he appeared again, he was already in front of the ruins of the villa. Gambling maniac. Is this the ability to teleport? Yuki Asuna. It feels like Norin has so many abilities that we can't even think of. That guy just died so tragically. I can't tell why. Deadpool. What kind of place is this? It's so messy. It seems to have just happened. Norin didn't look at the chat group. He looked at the ruins in front of him. There were 4 bodies inside. 2 servants, and a mother and daughter. You know, this mother and daughter. Although the girl is not the flesh and blood of Muzan Kibutsuji. But she grew up watching him. It's really unlucky that there is a guy like Muzan Kibutsuji in this world. Norin stood there, his right hand slowly stretched out, as if silently summoning something. As he moved, an invisible force began to condense in the air, forming a strong suction force. This force was like an invisible hand. Precisely and quickly pulled the 4 bodies from different directions. They drew arcs in the air and finally stopped in front of Norin. 4 bodies, each of them showed an extremely miserable death. Their bodies were twisted and shapeshifting, with deep wounds and bloodstains. They all died in extreme pain. Every scar on these bodies seemed to tell of the cruelty and ruthlessness of Muzan Kibutsuji. Norin had no expression on his face. A ray of light appeared on the 4 bodies, and then condensed into 4 clocks above their heads. He walked forward and gently turned the hour hand on the clock in the opposite direction. Thanks for watching.